If you want to build serious muscle size and increase your strength, there's one principle you cannot ignore, and that's progressive overload. This isn't just a buzzword thrown around in the gym, it's the fundamental law of adaptation. Your muscles don't grow just because you worked out or got a pump. They grow because you gave them a reason to adapt, and that reason comes from demand, repeated, gradually increasing demand. Now, when we talk about progressive overload, we're talking about a systematic increase in stress placed on your body over time. This can be more weight, more reps, more sets, less rest time, better control, more time under tension. Whatever challenges the muscle just slightly more than last time. That's where change happens. Your body's very intelligent. It doesn't want to waste energy or grow muscle unless it absolutely has to. So if you keep giving it the same stress, the same workout, the same effort, it adapts once and then it plateaus. No new stimulus means no new growth, but here's the nuance. Progressive overload doesn't mean maxing out every time or chasing weight at the expense of form. That's where people go wrong. The nervous system, the brain and spinal cord, controls every rep you do. And the quality of that rep matters so much more than the quantity of weight you're moving. You can lift heavy and still use proper form, good tempo, and full range of motion. That's where the magic happens. That's where your nervous system sends the signal to grow. Think about your body like a system that's always adapting to its environment. The gym is just the stimulus, the trigger, but if that trigger never changes, it stops firing new adaptations. So your job is to track your progress, even in subtle ways. You lifted 40 pounds last week for 10 reps, try 42. 5 pounds this week for 10, or keep the same weight but squeeze out one more controlled rep. Or slow the tempo. It's those micro progressions that stack up week by week and lead to measurable growth in muscle fibers and raw strength. What happens inside the muscle is even more fascinating. Each time you place that extra demand, you're causing tiny microtears in the muscle fibers, especially during the eccentric phase when you're lowering the weight. That signals the body to repair and rebuild those fibers, and during that repair, it lays down more protein, more thickness, more strength, but only if you've actually stressed the muscle in a way that's beyond what it's used to. That's why the intensity of your effort matters, and why just going through the motions won't get you results. Another important point is understanding your rate of progression. It's not about jumping 10 or 20 pounds every week. That's unrealistic, especially as you get stronger. In fact, the stronger you get, the slower the progress becomes, and that's normal. But if you add even 5 pounds to a lift every week for a year, that's over 100 pounds in a year. That's massive. Small, consistent wins, that's the key. Also, variety is a tool, but not a replacement for overload. Some people confuse changing things up with progressing. If you're always switching exercises, your body never has time to adapt in a meaningful way. Instead, stick with the core movements: squats, presses, pulls, deadlifts, and progressively overload those. Once the movement pattern is solid, the body knows what it's doing, and now it's time to push. This principle isn't just for bodybuilders or athletes. It's for anyone, especially as you age. Muscle mass starts to decline after 30, and strength drops even faster. Progressive overload is your defense. It tells your body, we still need this tissue, this function, this power. And when you send that message often enough, the body listens. Apply the overload intelligently, train consistently, and your results will compound beyond what you thought was possible. Building muscle and increasing strength isn't just about what you do in the gym, it's equally about what you put into your body. Training gives your muscles the signal to grow, but nutrition provides the raw materials. And if you're not fueling that process properly, you're missing a critical part of the equation. What you eat, and just as importantly, when you eat it, plays a massive role in muscle development, performance, and recovery. Protein is at the center of it all, but it's not just about getting enough, it's about getting it at the right times. After you train, your muscles are primed for nutrient absorption. There's a window roughly 30 to 60 minutes post-exercise, where muscle protein synthesis is heightened. If you miss that window consistently, you're slowing your progress down. That doesn't mean you need to sprint to the blender the moment you rack your last weight, but it does mean being intentional about timing your meals around your workouts to maximize the muscle building response. You want to aim for somewhere around 1.6 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day, depending on your activity level and goals, but more important than obsessing over the exact number is distributing that protein throughout your day. Your body can only absorb and utilize so much at once. Spreading your intake across 3 to 5 meals ensures you're feeding the muscle building process around the clock, not just once at dinner. Now, let's talk about food quality. Whole nutrient dense foods will always outperform processed protein bars or sugary drinks. Lean meats, eggs, fish, legumes, nuts, seeds, and even fermented dairy. These are the kinds of foods that carry not just protein, but essential micronutrients like zinc, magnesium, iron, and B vitamins, which all support recovery and muscle function. It's not just about calories and macros. Your micros matter just as much when it comes to performance. Carbohydrates are also part of this story. They often get demonized, but they're absolutely critical for muscle growth. After training, your muscles need to replenish glycogen. That's their fuel source. If you're running on empty, your strength will suffer, your recovery will slow down, and your training volume, the amount of work you can do, will drop. Quality carbs like sweet potatoes, oats, quinoa, fruit, these not only refuel your system, but also help shuttle protein into the muscle cells more efficiently. Insulin, which spikes when you eat carbs, isn't just a blood sugar regulator, it's anabolic when timed properly. Fats play a role too, particularly in hormone production. Testosterone, for instance, is synthesized from cholesterol. So completely eliminating fats in the name of getting lean is counterproductive. Avocados, extra virgin olive oil, fatty fish. These types of healthy fats support the hormonal balance that your body needs to build and maintain muscle tissue. Hydration is another critical piece that often gets overlooked. Muscle is about 75% water. Even slight dehydration can impair performance, delay recovery, and increase the risk of cramps or injury. You need to be drinking enough water, not just during your workout, but throughout the day. Electrolytes also matter, especially sodium, potassium, and magnesium, which support nerve signaling and muscle contraction. The last layer here is inflammation. Intense training causes micro damage in muscle tissue, which is necessary, but chronic inflammation can block recovery. So incorporating anti-inflammatory foods, berries, leafy greens, turmeric, ginger, omega-3 rich foods like salmon, helps keep your recovery systems working optimally. You're not just eating to feel full. You're eating to perform, you're eating to grow, and when you start viewing nutrition as an extension of your training, everything starts to change. The energy is better, the workouts improve, the recovery speeds up. And the results finally start to show. One of the most overlooked aspects of building strength and muscle is recovery. Most people believe that growth happens in the gym, but the truth is, it happens after the gym. The training session is the signal, the spark, but the actual growth, the repair, the adaptation, that all unfolds during rest, and when recovery is ignored or treated as secondary, progress slows, motivation drops, and over time, injuries creep in. Your muscles need rest, not just between sets, but between sessions. When you train hard, especially with progressive overload, you're creating microtears in the muscle fibers. That's normal, that's necessary. But the body needs time to repair those fibers and make them stronger than before. If you don't give it that time, you're just layering stress on top of stress. That's not how you grow, that's how you burn out. Sleep is the foundation. It's not just about hours, it's about quality. Deep sleep is when the body releases the highest amounts of growth hormone. That's what drives tissue repair, fat metabolism, and even immune function. Without enough restorative sleep, the entire hormonal cascade that supports muscle growth gets disrupted. Cortisol goes up, testosterone goes down, inflammation increases. The nervous system stays tense instead of resetting. You might still be training hard, but you're fighting against your own biology. That's why prioritizing 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep every night is essential, not optional. And if your sleep is inconsistent, there are science-backed strategies to recalibrate it. Waking up at the same time every morning, getting morning sunlight in your eyes, cutting caffeine 8 to 10 hours before bed. These are small actions that radically improve sleep architecture. And when sleep is dialed in, recovery accelerates. But even outside of sleep, there are tools you can use to support recovery throughout the day. One of the most powerful is something called non-sleep deep rest, or NSDR. This includes practices like yoga nidra, or specific breathing protocols that allow the brain to enter states similar to sleep without actually being asleep. Just 10 to 20 minutes of NSDR post-workout or in the afternoon can reduce fatigue, lower cortisol, and improve motor learning and memory consolidation, all critical for athletic performance. There's also active recovery, low-intensity movement like walking, cycling, or swimming. This isn't about burning calories. It's about increasing circulation, clearing metabolic waste, delivering nutrients, and helping the body stay in motion without added stress. A rest day doesn't have to mean doing nothing. It can mean doing the right things to promote blood flow and healing. And then there's cold exposure. Short bouts of cold showers or ice baths can help reduce inflammation, particularly after very intense or high volume sessions. But timing matters. You don't want to blunt the adaptive response to strength training by jumping straight into cold. Save it for the end of the day or for off days. Used wisely, it's a powerful tool, not just for the body, but for mental resilience. Recovery is not a passive process. It's active, it's deliberate, and the athletes, performers, and professionals who understand this are the ones who make real, sustainable progress over time, because in the end, training breaks you down, but recovery builds you back stronger. When it comes to building muscle, increasing strength, and accelerating recovery, your hormones play a central role, often more powerful than any single exercise or supplement. You can have the perfect training plan, eat well, and get your sleep, but if your hormonal environment isn't optimized, your body simply won't perform at its peak. And this becomes even more important as we age, because the natural production of key anabolic hormones like testosterone and growth hormone begins to decline. The good news is there are very real science-backed ways to naturally elevate these hormones through behavior and lifestyle, not synthetic shortcuts. Let's start with testosterone. This hormone is critical for muscle protein synthesis, bone density, recovery speed, and overall physical drive. And while it's often discussed in the context of supplements or hormone therapy, there's a much more effective and sustainable way to support it through intense, focused physical training. Compound movements, things like squats, deadlifts, pull-ups, heavy presses, are particularly powerful triggers. When you load multiple large muscle groups at once, your body responds with a significant hormonal surge. Testosterone increases, growth hormone spikes, and these responses are amplified when you train close to failure and keep your rest periods controlled but not overly long. These brief, intense bursts tell your body that strength and muscle are still necessary, still demanded, and the hormonal systems respond accordingly. But training is just one piece. Diet plays a major role as well. Healthy fats, especially from sources like eggs, olive oil, avocados, nuts, and wild-caught fish, support the production of steroid hormones. Cholesterol is actually a building block for testosterone, so when people go too low fat in their diets, they can unintentionally suppress hormone levels. That's not just bad for gains, it's bad for energy, drive, and long-term vitality. Sleep, again, is another major driver. Deep sleep is when the majority of daily testosterone and growth hormone release occurs. Even one night of poor sleep can reduce testosterone levels significantly the next day. So if you're not consistently prioritizing sleep, you're not consistently supporting your hormonal system, and that shows up in slower recovery, decreased strength output, and more fatigue during training. Intermittent fasting can also be a tool when used strategically. Going without food for a certain window, say 14 to 16 hours, can stimulate growth hormone secretion. It's not about starving yourself, it's about allowing the body to tap into a deeper state of cellular repair. During this fasted window, especially in the early morning, the body is primed for fat oxidation and hormone release. Combine that with light movement or fasted cardio, and the metabolic environment shifts in your favor. One more layer to consider is your exposure to environmental disruptors, plastics, artificial chemicals, poor air quality. These can act as endocrine disruptors and interfere with your body's natural hormone signaling. Avoid heating food in plastic. Filter your drinking water and stay mindful of what you allow on and into your body. So you're not just lifting weights and eating well. You're also creating a hormonal foundation that supports everything you're trying to achieve. You don't need shortcuts or hacks. You need alignment between behavior and biology, and when you give your body the signals it needs, it will rise to meet them. A lot of people go into the gym focused on numbers, how much weight they're lifting, how many reps they're hitting, how fast they can move through a workout. And while those metrics matter, what matters more, especially if your goal is to build size and strength, is the quality of each repetition. It's not just about moving the weight from point A to point B, it's about how intentionally you do it. The difference between average results and exceptional progress often comes down to something called the mind-muscle connection. When you train with intention, when you actually feel the muscle contracting, you're sending a far stronger signal to the nervous system. That connection tells your body which muscle to fire, how to recruit more motor units, and how to engage the full length of the muscle through the movement. And that depth of engagement is what leads to true hypertrophy. You're not just lifting, you're activating, you're controlling, you're owning the movement from start to finish. This is where form matters more than ego. Chasing heavier weights while sacrificing technique might look impressive, but it doesn't drive the same level of muscle activation. In fact, it often shifts the load away from the targeted muscle entirely. If you're benching, but your shoulders are doing all the work, you're not building your chest. You're just reinforcing poor movement patterns, and over time, that leads to stagnation or injury, not progress. Controlled eccentrics are one of the best tools to deepen the mind-muscle connection. That's the lowering phase of the movement, the part most people rush through. Slowing it down forces the muscle to work harder, increases time under tension, and creates more microtrauma, which ultimately leads to more growth. It also improves your coordination and stability, both of which are essential as you get stronger. Tempo matters, range of motion matters, even your breathing matters. When you inhale on the eccentric and exhale on the concentric, you're syncing your breath with your effort, and that helps your nervous system stay engaged and efficient. Training becomes not just a physical task, but a neurological one, and that's the level where real transformation happens. It's not about how much you can lift, it's about how precisely you can control every rep, every angle, every contraction. Because when your brain and your body are in sync, you unlock strength you didn't even know you had. When it comes to muscle growth and recovery, supplements aren't a replacement for hard training, quality food, and good sleep. But they can absolutely accelerate the process when used intelligently. The key is to focus on compounds that are backed by real science, not marketing hype. The goal isn't to flood your body with random pills. The goal is to support specific systems, muscle repair, energy production, inflammation control, and hormonal balance, so that your body can perform and recover at its highest level. Creatine monohydrate is one of the most researched and effective supplements out there. It helps regenerate ATP, which is your body's main energy source during short, explosive movements like lifting weights or sprinting. With consistent use, creatine can increase power output, boost strength, and improve lean muscle mass. It's not just for athletes. It's valuable for older adults too, especially for preserving muscle as we age. Omega-3 fatty acids, particularly EPA and DHA, support cellular health and reduce systemic inflammation. That's crucial when you're training hard, because inflammation that lingers can delay recovery and damage tissues over time. Omega-3s also support heart health, brain function, and even help regulate mood, all important factors that influence how consistently and effectively you train. Magnesium is another essential nutrient that most people are deficient in, and it plays a critical role in muscle contraction, recovery, and sleep quality. Taking it in the evening can promote relaxation and improve deep sleep, which, as we've discussed, is where most of your muscle repair happens. Vitamin D is equally important, especially for people who spend a lot of time indoors. It supports hormone production, bone density, and immune function. Without adequate levels, strength and energy levels suffer. Branch-chain amino acids and essential amino acids can also be useful, particularly during long workouts or fasted training. They help preserve muscle tissue and support protein synthesis, giving your body the building blocks it needs exactly when it needs them. But again, they're supplements, not substitutes for real food. If you're eating well, you may not need them all the time. It's about strategic use, not constant reliance. The more aligned your supplementation is with your actual needs, the more powerful the results. When you're giving your body the right tools at the right time, it knows exactly what to do. Everything we've talked about, progressive overload, strategic nutrition, deep recovery, hormonal alignment, precise training, and smart supplementation, comes together to create a complete system. This isn't about chasing quick fixes or relying on hype. It's about giving your body exactly what it needs to grow stronger, move better, and recover faster, day after day, year after year. When you treat your training like a science and your body like a high-performance system, the results don't just add up, they compound. Stay consistent, stay intentional, and the transformation will follow.